You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 86, How to Feel More Alive. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode. How are you today? I hope you're great. How has your sleep been? Did you discover any undercover sleep disruptors that you could eliminate? Even little things that you haven't thought of before that might get you a little bit more restful sleep? Today, we're going to talk about something I've been hearing from a few different people lately, that they wish they felt more alive. I've been there for sure. So I hope to help remind you of a few ways that you can feel a little bit more alive, and you can decide if one of them might help you experience life a little bit more fully. But first, just a little plug. This has nothing to do with me, but something cool I thought I would pass on. I happened to come across, it's like a year old, so maybe I'm like way behind and you already know about this, but if you happen to have Disney Plus, there's a show on there called Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, and he goes through in each episode something that will help your longevity. Like there's a cold exposure episode, one about being stress resistant, one about fasting. So if you like this stuff, which I'm assuming you probably do since you keep coming back and listening to these episodes, that might be a show that would be really fun for you to watch. And, you know, if you want to see Chris Hemsworth with his shirt off, okay. But it's really about the longevity, right? So check out Limitless with Chris Hemsworth if you have Disney Plus. Okay, first, let's talk about a few reasons why we might not feel fully alive. If their heart is beating and they're breathing in and out, why would someone even think to say that? I think when we feel a little bit trapped, sort of stuck in our routine because our life would fall apart if we stopped going through the motions, it can make us feel less alive. We go to work and we drop off our kids at dance class, and we go to the grocery store and we do the dishes because we have to. Not because we choose to or because we're thrilled to. Another reason might be because we're on autopilot. We're doing the same things we've always done and we don't even have to think about it. We could be like a dolphin with half our brain asleep and still get through our day just fine. Another might be physical, like we feel sort of zombie-ish, like someone turned down the dimmer switch on our energy so we're not fully alive. It's like a brownout. Another reason might be that we aren't allowing ourselves to experience all of the emotions that are available to us. We avoid or distract ourselves from the smorgasbord of sensations and states that are available to us as humans. Lastly, I think we feel less alive when we've gotten too comfortable. We're living our life in sweatpants, metaphorically speaking, and stretchy pants is not the dream come true we thought it would be. What? When we feel stuck going through the motions of our day, we feel less alive. We do everything out of obligation. Obligations can have a plus side, but not if they're sucking your life force. They're not inspiring. I can totally relate to doing almost everything in my life out of obligation. It seems like a long time ago now, but I definitely felt that way. It was like a hostage situation. I knew intellectually that I had created my life and I had what I thought I wanted, but I felt very trapped inside my to-do list. It was not a fun place to be because I didn't feel very alive. I was like a Christina automaton. Have you seen that movie Megan with the AI robot girl? I haven't, but I've seen the previews for it. Megan seems to feel pretty alive even though she's not human. Maybe because she's focused on what she wants, which is to protect her human friend, even if it means having to kill people to do it. I'm not suggesting that you become some kind of freaky killing machine, although Megan does appear to have some pretty good dance moves. But if you're not feeling fully alive because you feel trapped, it might help you to ask one of the best questions ever. What do I want? What do I want? Rather than focusing on what you have to do, figure out what you want. What do you want to do? What would serve your highest purpose? What would you be doing if you felt expansive, like you were on an upward spiral? If you know exactly what that is, start doing it, even in tiny ways, whatever you can afford in terms of money or time or energy. Don't buy your own excuses for why you can't try. The people who need you will absolutely benefit more from having you 85% as often at a zest level 9 than 100% as often at a zest level 2, or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. If you only have a vague idea of what you want, like you wish you were helping people more, you wish you were collaborating with other creative people more, you wish you had more adventure, something to study, something to fight for, what tiny thing could you do to start to move in that direction? You'll probably still need to load the dishwasher and take out the trash, but could you also draw for a few minutes here or there? Sign up for an online course? Join a pickleball group? Take petitions door to door? Figuring out what you want and what you can do about it is way more productive than feeling victimized by what you have to do. And it might take some time to get an idea of what you actually want. That's okay. Keep trying. Don't ignore your imagination when it tells you it's bored and it wants to be set free. In his book, The Power of TED, David Emerald says, "Your life is a kind of laboratory where you're constantly experimenting with your own higher knowing, always increasing your capacity to design the life you choose. Human beings must create. It's hardwired. The question is, are you consciously creating or only sleepwalking through your human life?" End quote. It's awesome that the basal ganglia in our brains are good at conserving energy by putting everything that we repeatedly do on autopilot. That's a good thing, except when it's not, which we'll talk about another time. The things we repeatedly do start to become automatic. But if everything we ever do can be done without much thought, we never have the chance to get into flow or to feel fired up about something. So what can you do to get off of autopilot? Hey, have you ever thought about buying an Oura ring? If you have, then you know that you can track your activity, recovery, and sleep with a light and unobtrusive ring that looks like a normal ring. I've had mine for almost 3 years and I absolutely love it. I check my numbers every single day and it helps me make better decisions. You can see real metrics that show the detrimental effects of eating too late or working out too hard too often, and the beneficial effects of balanced activity and turning off screens before bed. If you're a curious person who wants to see how much deep sleep you got, which is critical for muscle building, the Oura Ring can tell you whether you get the 75 to 90 plus minutes that you need for that. If you want to see if you got enough REM for emotional resilience, memory consolidation, and neurotransmitter production, your Oura Ring can tell you whether you got the 2+ hours that you need for that. I pay special attention to my HRV, which shows me how stressed my body is, and I always check my steps every day to make sure I've gotten enough non-exercise movement throughout the day. You can quickly check your heart rate, track your cycle. It connects the dots and knows why your basal body temperature increases for a day or two and uses that to predict your next period start date. You can see your sleep efficiency, which is a high leverage thing you can optimize for, and tag for things you might want to track like caffeine, fasting, sauna, melatonin, headaches, whatever. And it gives you monthly and quarterly reports. If getting more health data from an easy wearable has been on your mind, now might be the time to act. I have a link in the show notes that will get you $50 off. They make it super easy to find your perfect size and get started right away. Okay, back to the episode. You could take a different route to work or rearrange your furniture, buy new sheets or pajamas or something. Maybe that's enough. Sometimes you just need a change. Cut your hair. Try a different workout. But sometimes we're on autopilot because we haven't reconsidered what's most important to us lately. What really matters? Who do you really want to be? How do we need to grow to become that next best version of ourselves? A study of figure skaters found that sub-elite skaters spend lots of time working on jumps that they can already do. They were good skaters and those difficult jumps had become automatic. But skaters at the highest levels spent way more time on the jumps that they couldn't do. The kind that involve falling down literally 20,000 times before you can master them. The kind that are not on autopilot. the kind that win Olympic medals. We can be doing good and doing good things, but if we don't have something important that we're striving for excellence in, it can make us feel less alive. We need a worthy adversary and a concrete plan of how we're going to conquer it. I talked about this in episode 66, Stop Exercising. Sometimes just going through the motions, even good motions, isn't inspiring enough. But if you have a target and a plan and a way to monitor your progress, you can light that spark again. I know that I feel much more alive when I'm working on something I really care about and have an attack plan to go get it, and I'm monitoring my progress along the way. Even something that's not like super deep or existentially meaningful. If it matters to me, it affects my sense of well-being and aliveness. And even when my progress monitoring shows that I'm not progressing, the act of caring enough to record my efforts makes me feel more alive, like I have something important going on and I can see how what I choose to do gets me closer to that or farther away. Professor Noel Ritchie likes to draw 3 circles, one inside of the other. He labels the inner circle your comfort zone, the middle one your learning zone, and the outer one your panic zone. The location of skill and abilities that are just outside of your reach is the learning zone. We never make progress in the panic zone where everything is so hard that we can't even figure out how to approach them. We also never make progress in the comfort zone where we already know how to do everything. The learning zone is our golden ticket to feeling more alive and actually making progress toward what we want. He says that identifying the learning zone, which is not simple, and then forcing oneself to stay continually in it as it changes, which is even harder, these are the first and most important characteristics of deliberate practice, end quote. It's not easy to practice deliberate practice. Even just identifying what our learning zone is and how it will change over time requires some effort. But I promise that doing that work to figure out what is just outside of your comfort zone and then staying there and putting in the reps will make you feel more alive. Why are zombies good at so many skills? Dedication. Oh my gosh, that is so dumb. That's my transition from deliberate practice to another thing that might make people say that they feel less alive, which is physical fatigue. It's hard to feel fully alive if you're energetically undead, right? That's a no-brainer. So, no more zombie jokes. But seriously, physical fatigue is a real impediment to you feeling fully alive. The world is a better place when you're firing on all cylinders. You absolutely can get to the end of the day feeling awake, alert, excited, and able to accomplish what needs to be done. We could talk about this at length, and maybe someday we will. Send me a message if that would be useful to you. We'll just go through a few things for you to consider if you feel like your energy is subpar. The first thing I always think of is your fabulous little subcellular friends, your mitochondria. Mitochondria control a lot of what happens to us, not the least of which is how much energy we have. They are the little guys or gals inside our cells that make energy in the form of ATP. When they're subpar, we get this disease of mitochondrial insufficiency called aging. But really, that energy decline isn't totally inevitable. It can be significantly reduced and delayed. And mitochondrial dysfunction also causes a whole host of other things like cancer, dementia, vision loss, seizures, migraines, hearing loss, heart disease, etc. If you feel like you're just not generating as much energy as you used to, you will benefit from treating your mitochondria with a little more loving kindness. Go back and listen to episode 15 about mitochondria for ways to do that, including avoiding toxins, adding the right nutrients and supplements, and providing yourself with some good hormetic stressors. It can make a world of difference. I love my MitoPure brand urolithin A supplement from Timeline Nutrition, which supports mitochondria, but there are tons of other things you can do to help your mitochondria thrive. Obviously, chronic tiredness can also come from suboptimal sleep. We won't spend a ton of time on this one. We talked about it back in episode 49 and then also last week. If you think you're one of those people who functions well on less than 7 hours of sleep per night, you're probably wrong. You're statistically more likely to be hit by lightning than to be someone who functions well on suboptimal sleep. Just last week, we talked about some sneaky things you might not have thought of that could be preventing you from getting a great night of sleep. It's like jumbo important. If you listen to either of those episodes, you'll remember that leading sleep researcher Matthew Walker says that living your life underslept is like trying to boil water on medium heat. You can do it, but it's a lot harder and everything takes a lot longer. When you turn the heat up to high, you'll be amazed how much more you're capable of and wonder how you ever got by before. Your hormones also have a lot to do with your energy level. If you're tired all the time and you're supporting your mitochondria and sleeping sufficiently, you should probably get your hormone levels checked. The problem with that is that most traditional doctors do it wrong. They'll test the wrong things in the wrong way and are very likely to tell you that everything's peachy when everything is not peachy. You don't want to be normal. You want to be optimal. Normal levels are based off the general population, and it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. You need optimal levels of thyroid hormone, and that can't be ascertained by just a single TSH test. You want optimal levels of testosterone, which has a lot to do with energy, and enough estrogen balanced perfectly with progesterone. You also need your adrenal glands working well, giving you enough cortisol, aldosterone, and adrenaline, but not too much. This is all part of a much longer discussion, but if your low energy is caused by suboptimal hormone levels, that can absolutely be solved for. I've talked to hundreds of patients over my 23 years working in my pharmacy who are flabbergasted at how different they feel when they finally get their hormone levels optimized. The most common thing I hear is, I just can't believe it. I feel like me again. Another hormone to optimize for that I think is all too often ignored is insulin. This is a hormone that you can profoundly affect the production of, unless you're type 1 diabetic. Then this doesn't apply. You would die quickly without insulin, but you die slowly when you have too much of it. Well, beep, beep, back up. You could die even more quickly if you got way too much of it, but when you have a little too much of it for a really long time, that's what causes or contributes to all of the modern diseases of aging. And overall metabolic inflexibility can definitely contribute to low energy levels. I love listening to Dr. Benjamin Bickman from BYU explain things related to insulin. He has a book called Why We Get Sick that describes his research really well. I got it for free on Audible, which was a pretty sweet deal, and if I ever see him listed as a guest on a podcast, I'm sure to listen. The way that you choose to fuel your body absolutely affects your feelings of aliveness. Foods and people that are fast, cheap, and easy do not contribute to a sustainable sense of feeling alive. The last thing I'll say about physical energy is that it's weirdly not finite. Like if you use a piece of your energy pie now, you'll have one less piece to use later. Spending energy wisely gives you even more energy. Going for a walk makes you feel more energetic later. Carrying heavy stuff now pays you back in more aliveness later. Go back and listen to episode 28 about sedentary exercisers if you want to hear more about movement. But movement literally nourishes your cells. And it doesn't have to be exercise. I can testify to you that you will feel more alive at the end of the day if you stand up from your chair every 20 minutes than if you don't. You're not conserving energy for later use like hoarding pieces of pie, or like my son who's only about halfway done with his Halloween candy at this point in late February. He's so funny. He got a small little bag of Cold Stone ice cream flavored jelly beans in his Christmas stocking, and he eats 1 jelly bean per day. It's crazy. So if you restrict your jelly bean consumption, you do have more jelly beans at the end of the year. But if you restrict your movement, you actually have less energy at the end of the day. Give more to get more. It's like love in that way. Next up, one of the things that I think makes us feel alive is emotions. That's a lot of what makes us human, right? We're not just all about instincts and survival. We have emotional experiences that we make meaning out of, and that creates our experience of life. Without emotions, we don't feel alive. Have you ever watched a really bad movie? That's a dumb question. I'm sure you have. We watched Black Adam with our boys the other night. Sorry, Dwayne Johnson, but that movie sucked. I didn't expect much, but it was a long, soul-sucking 2 hours because I had no emotional response to anything at all in that show. I mean, I guess I felt a little bit bad for the mom whose teenage son went missing, but that was really it. I wasn't interested in connecting with whatever emotions the DC comic people were trying to evoke. I did, however, love the previous movie I watched, which was Ticket to Paradise with Julia Roberts and George Clooney, and I'm sure my boys felt absolutely no emotional connection to that show at all. Actually, my youngest one compares everything to Belfast. That's his benchmark for a bad movie. At least it wasn't as bad as Belfast. He was not at all emotionally invested in cute little Kenneth Branagh, sadly. Okay, back on track. Emotions. It makes sense that we don't want to feel negative emotions and perhaps unconsciously avoid them. But if we can do that a little less, we'll actually feel more alive. When we limit the number of emotions we're willing to experience, we limit our aliveness. And when we try to distract ourselves from anything uncomfortable, which can actually sometimes be positive emotions, we're anesthetizing ourselves from life. If everything gets whitewashed or tramped down, our life becomes like Black Adam to me or Belfast to my little boy Kip. We need to connect with and understand our emotions for a lot of reasons, one of which is that experiencing them makes us feel more alive. We can also shrivel up our sense of aliveness by using the potential for future negative emotions as an excuse to not do what we really want to do, what we wish we could do. If we're willing to feel embarrassed or disappointed or scared, then we'll be able to feel more alive because we don't let those things stop us from speaking up in a meeting, trying out for a play, or joining a volleyball team. We're going to talk more about the importance of being able to distinguish between similar emotions in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. But emotions, both good and bad, make us feel more alive, and our willingness to experience them opens us up to a bigger and more exciting life. So practice leaning into discomfort just a tiny bit more, and you might just end up feeling more alive. And lean into the joy more fully too, of course. 2 weeks ago in the episode about how to get more out of your oopses, I mentioned 3 questions high-performance coach Brendan Burchard asks himself in the shower every morning. Do you remember what they are? You're amazing if you did. I'll still love you if you don't. The second one was, what might trip me up today? And the third one was, who can I delight with appreciation today? The first one was, what can I get excited about today? That's an awesome place to start if you're wanting to feel more alive. Prime yourself to get excited about something. The anticipation and the celebration are zesty additions to what might otherwise be a slightly humdrum day. One of the things that can always make us feel better about life, and is one of my absolute favorite things, the closest thing we have to a panacea, something that we have tons of research and evidence to support, but something I've been hesitant to talk about because I feel like it's been beaten to death, is gratitude. I feel like it's been talked about so much that we don't even want to listen anymore. Kind of like COVID. After several months, I was like, I don't care. I don't want to hear about this anymore. But I'm sure you know that gratitude is awesome and can, in actual reality, make you feel more alive. I won't belabor the point, but I'll share a quote from a quote. In her book, Atlas of the Heart, Brené Brown says that she always kind of struggled to understand why gratitude helps so much in so many areas of our life. Most of the positive emotions, joy, contentment, interest, hope, awe, all have appreciation in common. She shared this quote from leading gratitude researcher Robert Emmons. Research on emotions shows that positive emotions wear off quickly. Our emotional systems like newness. They like novelty. They like change. We adapt to positive life circumstances so that before too long, the new car, the new spouse, the new house, they don't feel so new and exciting anymore. But gratitude makes us appreciate the value of something, and when we appreciate the value of something, we extract more benefits from it. We're less likely to take it for granted. In effect, I think gratitude allows us to participate more in life. We notice the positive more, and that magnifies the pleasures you get from life. Instead of adapting to goodness, we celebrate goodness. We spend so much time watching things, movies, computer screens, sports. But with gratitude, we become greater participants in our lives as opposed to spectators. End quote. There you go. I don't want to prattle on about it any further, but if you want to become a participant in your life rather than a spectator, gratitude is where it's at. My second to last idea of how to feel more alive is to not take things so seriously. To work and strive and grind and hustle a little bit less and play a little bit more. Even the serious stuff we're trying to accomplish is all just a game. Leading play researcher Stuart Brown says, a lack of play should be treated like malnutrition. It's a health risk for your body and mind. And when enough people raise play to the status it deserves in our lives, we will find the world a better place. He says, I have gathered and analyzed thousands of case studies that I call play histories. I have found that remembering what play is all about and making it part of our daily lives are probably the most important factors in being a fulfilled human being. The ability to play is critical not only to being happy, but also to sustaining social relationships and being a creative, innovative person. Interesting, right? The most important factor in being a fulfilled human is remembering play and making it part of our daily life. Stewart's definition of play is an absorbing, apparently purposeless activity that provides enjoyment and a suspension of self-consciousness at the same time. It is also self-motivating and makes you want to do it again, end quote. He explains that it's more of an emotional state than a physical one. Sometimes running is play, but sometimes it's not. It depends on your state of mind. Sometimes photo editing is play, sometimes it's not. Sometimes shopping is play, sometimes not. You get the idea? What can you do to add a little bit more play to your day? Stewart says that if you don't know what to do, the quickest way to jumpstart a state of play is to do something physical. Throw a ball, take a walk, do a handstand, anything that's fundamentally pleasurable. Another quote from him is, play is how we are made, how we develop and adjust to change. It can foster innovation and lead to multi-billion-dollar fortunes. But in the end, the most significant aspect of play is that it allows us to express our joy and connect most deeply with the best in ourselves and in others. If your life has become barren, play brings it to life again. Yes, as Freud said, life is about love and work. Yet play transcends both of these, infuses them with liveliness, and stills time's arrow. Play is the purest expression of love, end quote. I wasn't originally planning to do this, but here we go. Since play definitely makes you feel more alive, finding your personal go-to source of play can go a long way to enriching your average Thursday. Stewart says that when people live in accord with their play personality, the result is always a life of incredible power and grace. Here are his 8 play personalities. See if one fits you, and then think of a way that you can infuse more opportunities, even like 1 or 2 minutes, to do that into your day. 1. The joker. The class clown or practical joker falls into this category. Loves nonsense. 2. The kinesthete. Loves to move. Whether it's football or yoga or dance, they do their best thinking and feel most alive when they're moving. 3. The explorer. Loves to discover new places, whether the terrain is physical, emotional, or mental. They love pushing their edges and finding new vistas. 4. The competitor. Loves to play by creating games and playing to win. Whether it's solo or social, they love keeping score and coming out on top. 5. The director. Loves to organize, the party givers and excursion leaders who take us on adventures. 6. The collector. Loves to have the most interesting collection of objects or experiences, whether that's coins, toy trains, antiques, shoes, cars, or whatever fascinates them. 7. The artist or creator. Loves making things, whether that's painting or sculpting or knitting or sewing or gardening. They're playing when they're creating. And 8. The storyteller. Focuses on imagination. Novelists, cartoonists, screenwriters, performers, and all those whose greatest joy is engaging in those creations. All right, which one are you? I wish you could actually tell me, because I'd be interested to know. I'm an explorer with a side of creator and a little pinch of competitor. It's helpful to know in that it helps you to know how to infuse a little more of your flavor of play into your day. That could be spending a few minutes sewing or slacklining. Santa brought me a slackline for Christmas and I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I'm super excited about setting it up. Or looking to add a bottle to your hot sauce collection, whatever feels like play to you. I think it could also be seeing if you can incorporate your favorite style of play into what you already need to do today. How could you make doing the laundry more nonsensical? Could you turn grocery shopping into a competitive sport? What new terrain could you discover at work today? I think we feel more alive when everything isn't so serious and heavy, and it's a little harder to tell the difference between our work and our play. Last but not least, we have one more idea that could easily spin off into hours and hours of discussion, something that can definitely help you feel more alive. Author Donald Miller says, if you were a writer and came to me with a bad story and said, Dawn, this story isn't working, it's not interesting, and I don't know how to fix it, the first thing I'd look at is the lead character. Who is this story about, and why isn't this character working to make the story more meaningful? There are 4 major characters in nearly every story: the victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide. One thing that will ruin a story fast is if the hero, the character the story is about, acts like a victim. You cannot have a lead character in a story that acts like a victim. This is true in stories, and it's true in life. In fact, the reason it's true in stories is because it's true in life. The reason a hero that acts like a victim ruins the story is because a story must move forward to be interesting. The hero must want something that is difficult and perhaps even frightening to achieve. This is the plot of nearly every inspirational story you've ever heard. A victim, on the other hand, does not move forward or accept challenges. Instead, a victim gives up because they have come to believe that they are doomed. End quote. The world is very quick to tell us what we want, or what it wants us to want. We're led to believe that we'll be happy for the rest of our lives if we buy a certain makeup or car or air fryer or house or take a particular vacation or earn a certain degree. That pleasure equals fulfillment. I would say that most people are seeking pleasure. What do you think? Sigmund Freud even based his whole life's work on the premise that the supreme motive for human behavior is the desire for pleasure. A couple of decades after Freud, Viktor Frankl came out with his theory that man did not have a will to pleasure, but a will to meaning. And when man couldn't find meaning, he distracted himself with pleasure. Who do you agree with more? I love what Donald Miller says. Why are we so restless? Because ice cream is distracting but not fulfilling. Because alcohol offers a fabricated sense of peace. Because lust is not love. Frankl was right. We distract ourselves with pleasure when we can't find a sense of meaning. End quote. The endless pursuit of pleasure is a symptom of not having a deep sense of meaning. We chase the pleasure, get the pleasure, think we're happy for 5 minutes, then have to chase the next thing because we're never really fulfilled. It works great for the people who are trying to sell us stuff, but when we have an intense sense of meaning or purpose, we choose what to do because it serves the greater purpose. It's something that's bigger than us. We don't do it for the pleasure or to make ourselves happy. We do it because it's the right thing to do. But then the side effect of that is that it unintentionally makes us happy. Truly, sustainably, energetically happy. It's what Ward Farnsworth calls the good life rather than the good mood. I love that. Living the good life is a lot harder than mindlessly chasing the good mood, but I also think that it makes us feel so much more alive. We feel alive when we're moving forward, when we're the hero of our own story. Remember, victims don't move forward. The best way to ruin a good story is to have the hero act like a victim. Boring. We feel alive when we're striving for a worthy cause, when we're connected to something bigger than us, when there's something so meaningful we're willing to give our life over to it. We're going to talk more about this in a few weeks, but it's okay if you're not crystal clear on exactly what that is at first, but I'm sure you have a general sense of meaning. Connecting to the importance of that can help you feel more alive, and acting in integrity with it, especially when it's hard, gives you a more long-lasting sense of pleasure than pursuing pleasure does. I want to end with a new quote I just read the other day. I've said before that I keep thinking I've already heard all the good quotes, but then sometimes I find a new one that bedazzles me, so here you go. This is from Rabindranath Tagore. I've never heard of him, so I just Googled him just now, and it says he's a Bengal polymath. So then I had to Google, what's a polymath? You probably know, but it's a person of wide-ranging knowledge. Sounds pretty awesome. Oh, and he won a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. Okay, so he said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Isn't that fantastic? Good job, Rabindranath. Just to recap, if you're looking to feel more alive, you might benefit from one of these ideas. Asking yourself what you really want instead of feeling trapped by your current circumstances. Turning off autopilot and being more present to your actions. Dialing up your physical energy through physiologic changes to your body. Being willing to feel your emotions, looking for things to appreciate, playing more, and connecting to a meaningful sense of purpose. Thank you so much for being here today. You are the best, and I so genuinely appreciate your attention and support. I hope you have a great rest of your day and your week. Next week, we're going to talk about helping your eyes to age gracefully. Until then, feel alive and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.